back to another episode of vtuned. So in the last episode, we got the whole interior stripped out. Now we're gonna go ahead and move on to the front end of the car. We need to go ahead and take off this radiator support. The radiator support is cracked right here and damaged right here. So we're gonna need to go ahead and take this thing off and go ahead and start straightening all this out and get it ready for some paint work. Is take this headlight off. So we got the radiator support off. Now this is the area we're gonna have to go ahead and start fixing. As you can see, it's not that bad, so we don't have to replace it. Probably just have to grab it lightly and just pull it out and weld it back. All right, so we got all the bodywork done on the lower apron. Now we're gonna use some of this 2-in-1 primer. It's really nice for doing these small little jobs. You don't have to mix primer and use the gun. So we're gonna go ahead and spray this in. All right, so all the primer is dry. Now we can go ahead and untape it. All right, so you might be wondering why it took so much time to do this like this, the way I did it. And the reason is I just like doing everything right, especially on this Hellcat. It is like a $40,000 car, and I just wanted to make it perfect, even though you'll never see this because the radiator support goes right here and then the headlight. And there's also a cover that covers all this. All right, so now that that's done, let's go ahead and do some cleanup. All right, so we got everything cleaned up. Now we're gonna go ahead and move on to the suspension. We got some new suspension parts. Big shout out to Alex Rebuilds. He sent me this Hellcat suspension. If you want to check out his channel, I'll drop a link in the description. He actually rebuilt a Dodge Challenger Hellcat, and he had some extra suspension, and he just sent it to me. Let's see what we got here. Nice job on the packaging.
Oh yeah, high quality.
So we got one control arm. I'm guessing it's this control arm right here. All right, let's see what else we got. And here's the main component. Check that out. And he also sent us the lower control arm, but I don't think it's bad, but we're gonna replace it anyways because it might be cracked or something.
It's good to play it safe sometimes.
Yeah, it's right here. Might as well replace it since we already have it. And then we also have a rotor. These oil lines out of the way. And we also got some tire rods because this one's pretty bent. And then we have the rotor. Just a little tip for everybody out there. If you're ever working with suspension components, just put some gloves on. Makes everything a lot cleaner. The suspension component I'm gonna go ahead and remove is this tire rod. It's just a simple 21 right here. All right, so we got the tie rod off. Now we need to go ahead and get all these brake lines unscrewed. Off the big old Brembo. I'm actually really surprised this thing survived. Just look at the condition of the wheel bearing. That's insane. I'm really glad about that. Saved me around, I'm guessing like $700 just for this one piece. So the caliper is off. Now I want to get this spindle off. All right, so I just noticed that the sway bar link bushing is actually, I'm guessing it just popped out. But if you guys know any aftermarket companies that make really nice sway bars, it would be nice to go ahead and get an aftermarket sway bar since we're already this far into the car. Now we're gonna go ahead and remove this control arm. We got all the broken parts off except for the inner tire rod. I'm gonna go ahead and get this boot off and get it replaced with a new one. So in order to get this tire rod off, I'm gonna have to cut this off because the tool actually slides on like this. All right, it's off. Got the old tire rod off. Now we got a new one. All right. Now let's go ahead and put the tie rod on. All right, so we did just put the tie rod on, but we will be doing alignment later, so it doesn't really matter where we put it right now. We need to go ahead and install this control arm. We got this control arm on. Now let's put on the spindle. All right, a little quick tip. If you have a ball joint that's spinning, just get a jack and just jack it up a little bit. Apply some pressure. And it should tighten it up and it'll be easier to screw on and it won't be spinning. All right, so we got the spindle on. Now let's go ahead and install this control arm. All right, so we got all the suspension parts on. Now we need to go ahead and put the new rotor on. All right, guys, so that's a wrap for today. It's like 12 o'clock at night. We're gonna go ahead and clean up this mess we made, and we'll see you back tomorrow. it's another day here at the shop. We did actually receive the radiator support today, so we're gonna go ahead and get all this wet sanded and then painted. All right, so everything is sanded and taped off. Now we need to mix some paint and spray it in. Got the paint mixed up, let's spray it in. So we got the apron all painted in. Now we're gonna move on to the radiator support. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and lay down a white base coat over this black because the orange is not gonna cover the black real good and we're gonna need to waste a lot of paint. So let's get started. All right, so we got everything untaped. Guys, look how good that looks. Looks exactly like this side. Guys, that's a wrap for today's video. We're not gonna put the radiator support on because we're still waiting on a bunch of parts to come in from the dealership. In the next video, we're gonna be cutting off the roof and getting a new roof panel installed and installing the new doors. If you like today's video, go ahead and drop a like and subscribe down here.